Hi guys, it's Miss Wood. I want to show you a process for annotating your text. And I'm going to start with something that we're familiar with, which is a written text. And what I have is an example of um, a student essay. And so this is going to tell us what it is that we're looking for when we are reading the text. So we're looking for logos, we're looking for pathos, ethos, the rhetorical situation, and they're going to expect us to synthesize several different arguments. And so we're going to go over this part in class and so I want to familiarize you with the article that we'll be reading. Now, this article is called The Sadness of Singing Robots. I have not read this yet, so we're going to go through this the first time together. If I click on the link, I can see the original. I've copied it to a Google Doc so that we can edit it and annotate it clearly and efficiently. But if you look here, the author has included hyperlinks, and these are going to be places where we can do lateral reading if we need to, and fact check, see if we need to check his sources and see what is going on here. So it's always good to look at the original source and check it out. Now, this is a Substack, so this is somebody's personal writings. Substacks can be crowdfunded, but he does not work for like a major news organization or anything like that. I can click here and see who he is. This is his Substack bio. Writer, broadcaster, author, host of The String, and co-host of The Old Fashioned on WMOT Roots Radio. I'm not familiar with that, but that might be some kind of a podcast using ideas as a map, and we can go over, this looks like his Twitter, maybe. Oh no, oh, here's his website. Okay. How to listen like an artist. All right, so just from here, it looks like he talks a lot about music. Playing since he was 7, 25 years. He's from Nashville. Culture, media, American music. Okay. He has reported for NPR, WPLN, Wall Street Journal, Acoustic Card. Okay, so he's been published in major organizations. Okay. All right. So just from a quick look, it seems like he's pretty trustworthy and knowledgeable. We can see his posts here. Now, again, Substack is paid, so you would have to create an account. Some of them, like if you want to get extra content from creators, you might have to pay. But we're going to go back to this article here, and I'm going to switch back to my Google Doc version. Okie dokie. So the title is The Sadness of Singing Robots. And just from the title, I know that this is going to be something about how it's negative, maybe, to have robots singing. Maybe they're sad that they're singing. There's something negative happening here. Nashville-based Words and Audio on Music and Culture, the home journal of musicality for modern humans, forthcoming October 25. Okay, so he sounds like he's going to publish this in a journal. Here's our subheading. We can't stop AI music, but we should contest it. All right, this is his opinion here. I'm going to highlight that. So I know before I even start reading what his opinion is. We can't stop AI music, but we should like pump the brakes a little bit. This is within our window, 2023. That's only almost 3 years ago. And let's see what he has to say. If you're not awestruck and a little bit frightened by artificial intelligence right now, I'd suggest you're not paying attention. While we've been taking advantage of various AI tools for years in voice command apps and content recommendation engines, new generative AI tools like ChatGPT for text and Midjourney for graphic art have sent us reeling into an uncertain and unsettling future. We should all be burning with questions about how these applications, which can seemingly produce original quality content in seconds using simple voice prompts, will change how we work, learn, and create. Now, this seems like something that he is telling us to do. We should all be burning with questions about these applications. And this is how I know that this is an opinion. He's using this word should. And we should be asking questions about how we work, learn, and create. So I'm going to be expecting for him to talk about working, learning, and creating, especially when it comes to music, where the new tools appear to be less famous but more varied and prolific than other art forms. After years of waiting, it's now urgent business to stake out a position on the ethics of boundaries of generative AI music, which I'll abbreviate as GAIM. So generative AI artificial intelligent music. Much of the commentary I've seen so far has been tepid and agnostic with only time will tell kind of attitude, and that's not enough. AI applications in music aren't entirely useless or inherently evil, but we should start from a framework of skepticism. So this is telling me where his point of view is. He's not saying it's bad necessarily, but we shouldn't just be accepting it without asking questions. GAIM isn't something we need, and I doubt it's something anyone, creator or consumer, would want. Call me a William F. Buckley Jr. conservative on this point, which he famously defined as someone who stands athwart history, yelling "stop" at a time when no one is inclined to do so. Y'all are too young to know who William F. Buckley Jr. was. That's certainly not the vibe one gets from some coverage of AI music tools. It's almost all cheerleading. The top-ranked Google news story on the subject just now says that a service called Amper Music is a great choice for content creators, while another called Soundful leverages the power of AI to generate original soundtrack music for podcasts or games. While this particular story does open with a note suggesting using AI as a supplemental tool rather than a replacement for human artists, it offers not a whiff of warning about the cost or of effort-free art making. Cost of effort-free art making. Nor does it recognize the stunning mediocrity of the results, a sample of which is here. So if I go over to his article, I should see a sample of which is here. So we could listen to it if we wanted to, but I want to keep moving. Other examples of prompt-based music can be found in this paper from Google. Another link. I'll warn you, it's mind-numbing stuff, but of course, it will get more complex and convincing with time. Okay, I had a colleague come and talk to me, so I had to pause real quick. Okie dokie. So he's bringing up questions here of the cost of effort-free art making and how mediocre or just like mid the results are. So he says it's mind-numbing, like this is not good. It's not interesting, but it's going to get better with time. The AI music apps themselves are making extravagant claims. Here's the lead copy from one called Boomy. Make original songs in seconds, even if you've never made music before. Submit your songs to streaming platforms and get paid when people listen. Join a global community of artists empowered by Boomy AI. Think of the hucksterism and delusion of this brief pitch. So a huckster is someone who tries to sell you a product that they know is not good. In reality, users of this platform are not making songs, but having a sequence of sounds generated for them. I think this is an interesting argument. So I wonder, like, what's the difference between a song and a sequence of sounds? So anytime you're reading and you come up with a question like that, write it down. It might get answered later in the article. It might not. It might be a lateral reading opportunity. Taking the next step, contemplate the hubris and petty greed of submitting electronic ditties generated by a web app to a streaming service in hopes of a payout. So hubris is like big ego. And in that case, no, you'd not be joining a community of artists because prompting generative AI does not make you an artist. Now, here's a pretty strong opinion. This kind of marketing hype should be a reminder that our first ethical obligation in this strange new world is to reaffirm the respect for labor, the experience, the humility and humanity inherent in being a musician. This is also a major point that he's making. So being a musician isn't just creating sounds, it's working, it's experiencing it, it's having humility, and of course, a human element. Of course, we've had digital tools to generate and manipulate sounds for decades. We can map instrument sounds like clarinet or church organ onto melodies generated by another instrument or a voice. Other tools can generate harmonic backing parts in real time. Computers also can simulate room acoustics of specific spaces, model various kinds of guitar amplifiers, or sweeten up mixes with simulated mastering. Such tools can be deployed tastefully or tastelessly. Okay, I had a student interrupt me that time. Sorry. Okay. Da, da, da. Other tools can generate harmonic backing parts in real time. Computers can also simulate room acoustics of specific spaces, model various kinds of guitar amplifiers, or sweeten up mixes with simulated mastering. Such tools can be deployed tastefully or tastelessly, but they're not ethically problematic. Such tools enhance or modify content made by people rather than making it for them. So here's the distinction between these tools and generative AI. So it's just modifying something that's been made by a human. It's not making it themselves. Moreover, these techniques became established gradually, and musicians tend to be taught quite transparent about how they've applied them in their recordings. One has to have certain kinds of musical aptitude to apply them competently. So you have to have skill in order to use these tools. Generative in AI is different in kind, not degree. So he's making a distinction here that generative AI is not even the same kind of tool as things like mixers or computer programs. So I'm going to make that note that this is what his argument is here. So like an amplifier or something. Let's see. The most obvious concern around GAIM relates to attribution and plagiarism. So who gets credit and have we copied from someone? Some people will pass off AI music as their own or as the product of a fictional artist or persona they control. Already, people with apparently nothing better to do have generated songs in the style of famous artists using those artists' work as their learning models, such as Nirvana or AC/DC. And boy, are they awful. But they'll get more convincing with time. We'll soon see news stories revealing that some track with millions of streams on a service by a mystery indie artist was actually generated by AI. And the media will spin that as, wow, isn't that cool that we couldn't tell? But of course, converting an artist's work into data and then corporealizing it without permission or passing off AI works one didn't compose and execute as original is flagrantly wrong. So I'm going to highlight this because this is another strong opinion. Will that stop people from doing it? No, but musicians and producers ought to present a united front in rejecting and condemning it. So here again, he's telling us what we need to do. Don't accept it. Oops, I meant to make that yellow. A related threat tracks with the fear of deepfake video or audio in the political realm. It's become possible to convincingly replace the voice of one person with another's, and recently a clip made the rounds with a remarkable simulation of Jay-Z's voice performing a song he had nothing to do with. His longtime recording engineer quickly and appropriately sent up a warning that this wasn't a good direction. Yet, at the same time, we have this young woman standing on a TED stage encouraging people to sing as me or ruminating on her own voice being in 1,000 different bands in multiple languages. While she does make perfunctory nods into intellectual property and permission, she's seeing the future through a narcissist's eyes and flagrantly devaluing the meaning and value of musical performance. So by allowing her voice to be used by millions of people for whatever reason, she's devaluing that value that a musical artist has. She calls voice simulation a 21st century corollary to sampling. So she's saying it's just like sampling, which it absolutely is not. It's either theft or a weird and creepy kind of musical necrophilia. That's interesting. Necrophilia is when you're in love with a corpse. So something that's dead. I'm just going to make a note here that is something dead. But these are the easy cases. What about GAIM that's presented honestly as what it is? What happens when AI inevitably can fabricate works, complete works that simulate melody, harmony, timbre, and structure so convincing that it evokes an emotional reaction in large numbers of people? What happens when I hear AI music that I, at some level, enjoy? How one responds depends in part on being prepared, which means seizing on this weird moment in human and technological history to refresh our ethos of music, to ask ourselves what music is for and what it means at a philosophical level. So this is a really deep question, the ethos of music. He's saying, why do we have music? Why do we make music in the first place? What does it do for us? I think this is an interesting question. Some people might say that it makes them feel something, makes you feel happy, or it soothes you when you're sad, or sometimes it makes you more sad. We can connect with people over music. So there's something deeply inherently human, in my opinion, about music and how we share it and what we listen to. I welcome that because it's a conversation few people ever have with themselves in a world where everything can feel like amorphous content. Everything can feel like amorphous content. Amorphous means without form, without shape or structure. Maybe it changes. So he's saying that we need to really understand music in a world where what content is constantly changing and has no real definition. Definitions of music can be considered contested and esoteric, so I need to be clear about my own to make my argument about AI music meaningful. Now, definitions, remember, are important. We learned about this last semester where we need to make sure that we all have the same definition. This is part of our stasis theory. We all need to make sure that we are working with the same definition so that we can work on the same issue. Because if we're talking about different things, we're never going to be able to come together. I put it this way. Music is humans moving fellow humans through aesthetic manipulation of sound. So here's his definition. Moving can mean emotional, intellectual, physical, and spiritual. So he's getting even more specific. The fellow human may encompass a mass audience, a room full of several listeners, or only oneself, because a lot of music is made alone. I should know. I'm going to highlight this because it also encompasses this definition. But for me, human agency must be included because music's value is manifested in both the making and the listening. So let's unpack this a little bit. Human agency means agency is your ability to make choices and decisions for yourself. If you have agency, you are in control of your own actions. No one is making you do anything. So human agency has to be included. Humans have to be making decisions because music's value is realized in both the making and the listening. So there's no value to music that isn't listened to. And you can't listen to something that hasn't been made. So you have to have both of these elements in order to have music. I'm going to highlight that too. A symphonic score or a recording on a shelf has potential energy, but were those never played again, they'd have no value. And we could say in a meaningful sense that some music has died. So music that was once played and heard, but now no one has anymore or can listen to anymore is dead. Music is a medium of intentional communication and connection with agency at two ends of a line. So both the creator has agency and the listener has agency. Music's value derives from a yin-yang duality between the inspiration of the creators and the perception of the listeners. Multiple parties are involved in a transaction of energy, attention, and empathy. Man, he makes it sound so dynamic. With AI music, there's no creator with whom to empathize and thus no energy to exchange. I highlight that because he's noting the difference here between human music and AI music. On that creation side, there are two layers, as we know from copyright law, the composition of the work and the audible manifestation of the work, the track, which I dare not call a sound recording, even though that's how some will want it to be treated for their royalty streams. So you have the composition, so who wrote it, who made it, and then who creates it, like who sings it or performs it. In real music, composing involves ingenuity and inspiration, while the track or performances implicates a matrix of factors such as arrangements, mix, phrasing, dynamics, etc., all of which are supposed to reflect experience, expertise, and labor. So he's saying that when you are writing music, you have to have new ideas and you have to have inspiration. But when you are performing music, you have to know how to arrange it. So maybe it sounds better with emphasis in one way, or it sounds better with a note that rises. You have to mix it properly. This is how the audio sounds. You have to phrase things. So like, how are you going to break up the rhythm and dynamics and all of this stuff? So it takes experience, expertise, and labor to do this. So this is all that human investment and agency that he's talking about. So we're asked to imagine a world in which certain works of music don't come with any of that. They're just manifested by a computer via some kind of prompt. What is this good for? Well, we know that passive listening is less meaningful than active listening, and the same logic should apply for creation. So passive listening would be like when you've got the radio on or Spotify, like when you're cleaning house or cleaning your room. Active listening is when you're sitting there with your headphones and you're grooving or vibing to the music and you're really feeling it. Passive creation is an oxymoron. So oxymoron is like contradictory statements, but it's at the heart of generative AI music. A tree falling in a forest with nobody to hear it does in fact make a sound because sound is an objective form of energy. A robot generating harmonious tunes through a speaker detected by another robot's microphone does make a sound, but it doesn't make music in any important sense. So again, he's got a difference between sound and music. They are not the same thing. A robot making music for us isn't making music as an art form, but as a let's see, here's a new word for me. Simulacrum. Simulacrum. Let me see what this word means because I don't know. Image or representation.
Simulacrum.
Simulacrum. Okay. Lateral reading. Thank you. Simulacrum. As a simulacrum of music made from math. It doesn't matter if its sound is superficially groovy, tuneful, or engaging. AI music is a category error and an existential sadness. Whew. He's got some heavy opinions here. Another argument against AI music has to do with economics, with supply, demand, and value. Even before digital music revolution, we had an astronomical amount of good music in our world and a robust pipeline for new music, producing more than a busy and devoted person could listen to or understand in a lifetime. Then, after 2000, came an unprecedented supply shock that led to tens of thousands of new musical works being added to streaming services every week. No disrespect to any given musical person or the desire to create and play music, but sheer ease of access for all the good that it does has generated a staggering, unproductive supply of mediocre music in the marketplace. So here's another opinion I'm going to highlight. So just because music is easy to access does not mean that it is good. And making more music easier to create and send to people means that we have more bad music. We've got good music, but we've also got a lot of bad music. At a time when the industry and creators struggle with realizing their value in the market, we scarcely acknowledge the supply side of a historically unprecedented ratio of musical creators to listeners. So in the past, not as many people were making music, but now we've got a ton of people. Anybody can do it. Why would anyone try to usher into existence machines that make more mediocre music, indeed an infinite amount of it? There's a very real chance that AI music factories will. So he's saying, like, we've already got people making bad music. Why do we need robots to make bad music? Finally, an example that's probably already happening here in Nashville is the famed writer's room along Music Row. A songwriter asks AI to generate melodic ideas in the key of A with a melancholy mood as a prompt. The songwriter listens to the ideas and then works with one as the basis of a song. How do they represent this song to their publisher or to artists in the A&R process? It's a co-written song, but there's no person out there to claim credit for the musical side of the work. So we need a code of ethics requiring transparency about the song's origins. Co-writing credit isn't only about ensuring all creative parties get paid, it's also about creators acknowledging the boundaries of their contribution as a whole. So it's not just about money, it's about their creative process and being clear and open about what that process is. The only safe path forward is a strong practice against hiding the use of GAIM in the creative path. So we shouldn't hide or be sneaky about the fact that we used AI. Will cool music be made by humans in concert with AI? Absolutely. I just insist on knowing that's what it is. As long as I know that it was a Lennon and McCarthy and George and Ringo, those are the Beatles, y'all. And I want the human partner in the creation to show humility required of any ethical artist. So he's doing a definition here of what an ethical artist is. We have to be humble. AI is already here, tempting everyone in music with a previously unimaginable menu of cheat codes. It's incumbent on everyone who makes or cares about music to be intentional, reflective, and open about how they use these new tools. We ought to be convening AI ethics conferences and congresses across the creative fields. Whew. Conferences and congresses is kind of hard to say, across the creative fields. I don't see us moving fast enough and too many marketplace players rushing towards something they don't understand. It's just like Photoshop. It's not. For their own benefit. This is a watershed moment in history, and we'd better stand up for the inherent humanity of musicianship and musical communication, lest we determine by inaction that none of it really mattered at all. So he's saying that if we accept generative AI music as music, then what's the point of music? It's a pretty bold statement. I'm going to highlight this one too. None of it really mattered at all. Okay, so if I scroll back up, I'm going to zoom out so I can see a little bit better. If I scroll back up, I've got some things highlighted. And I know that in this rhetorical analysis essay, I'm going to have to identify ethos, pathos, and logos. So what you will want to do is go back and look at your highlights and see which ones are claims, which ones use ethos, which ones use pathos, and which ones use logos. So remember, ethos is why we should listen to him. Why do we accept his definitions of what music is? Well, he's not saying in this article, oh my gosh, hello. Why did it do that? Okay, there we go. He's not saying in the article what his own authority is. We know that from his background and the lateral reading that we did. So what is it in there that he's using as ethos? And we'll go over that in class and you'll have resources to look at that. Pathos, remember, is an emotional response. He says that music is inherently emotional. If it's going to move someone emotionally, then that's music. And it comes from an emotional place in another human being. And then logos is the logic. So to me, that would be where he talks about the creator side at the end, where he's talking about disclosing if you used AI as part of your creative process. So once you've read through it, once you've had some questions, go back, read it again. Identify ethos, pathos, and logos. And I'll make another video where we can go through that process together. So this one's not too long. Okay, so we read through it. I'm going to give you guys an assignment to go through it and identify ethos, pathos, logos, and I'll make a video to help us go through that as well and double check your answers. As always, make sure that you reach out to me if you have any questions. You can comment on the video or you can send me a message on Remind. All right, guys, happy reading.